Hello, Book Connectors. Welcome or welcome back to the Book Connection. I am your host, White Black Devil. So, I have a question for today, and this question is a bit personal to me, but I'm going to try to get through it. Okay. Now, so yesterday's question was, have you ever wondered who invented slang and why or whatever? Now, in keeping with yesterday's question, today's question is, have you ever wanted to be wrong about something? I mean, wanted to be so wrong that it's like you needed it to be wrong. Because if you are right, it could totally change your perspective on something that you're going to deal with for possibly ever. Okay, so I recorded this whole thing only to look down and find out I forgot to press record. Anyway, I'm sorry. Let's try this one more again, y'all. So, this question was, like I said, a little more personal to me. Now, my oldest daughter, Skylar, is 31. Now, she has a speech impediment. When I took her to enroll her in Head Start, well, they didn't talk to her that day, but 4 or 5 months later, the year she was due to turn 4 that July, she started school in January. So this was like she turned 5 in July of 99. So anyway, as I am enrolling her, they asked me if I had any issues I would like them to address, and I told them about her speech, and they were like, okay, we'll do that. And so they did. They went right on. I guess she may have been going to school for possibly 5 weeks. And I go get my mail, and there are the results. I cried so hard and seemed like for so long. And, I don't necessarily believe that I was crying because I was wrong. I think that I cried because I didn't realize it was as bad as it was. Those results showed that she has she was classified as having a moderate to severe speech impediment. Now, my family has always been like, well, if you hadn't have understood her, Skylar would have been speaking way before now. Now, obviously, we don't know that to be true. But the main reason I did it is because I did not want her to get so worked up and so frustrated for not being understood, that she ended up fighting or whatever. And so I just didn't want people to keep saying, huh, and worse yet, what you say? What she say? Because I don't get it. I did not want that to happen to her. And so that's why if I was around and she said things, I would, tell them what she said. And when it was all said and done, I do believe I might have overdone it, but I don't regret doing it. I do not regret doing it. So, when I got those results and we got her into speech pathologist, she asked me why I felt that she had some issues with speech because she was only 4. And I was like, yes, but I said I have nieces and nephews. Some are older. Let me see. Yeah, because after I had Skylar, the next baby born wasn't born until 1998. So Sky is about 3.5 years older than one of my nieces. I said, but I don't care who's around. I said, she's like she's in her own little world. I said, so much so that she seems to have created her own language. And I was just getting so animated trying to make her understand that I didn't necessarily know what the problem was, but by this girl coming up with words that don't exist, and sometimes they weren't words. It was just sounds. And this, that, and that. When I tell you that lady sat there and she was like, yeah, yeah. And the more I talked, so eventually she said that actually that was typical. Most children with speech impediments, especially hers, even if you just stopped at the moderate, not severe. She said, but a lot of them will create their own language and hope they have someone who gets what they mean. And I was like, I could not believe that they just going to be all calm, collected. I don't know what I thought she should have done, but I know that just tripped me out when that was her response, all calm, cool, and collected. But after she said that that's very common for kids who have issues like that. And I told her what my family and friends would say. She was like, no, because you are the only one who gets her is all the more reason for you. She said, you don't sound like you have a problem speaking. And I just smiled. She said, but you are going to be her best example. And she said, so you got your assignment, number one, is to make sure that you speak as clearly and as correctly as you can, because you are her first teacher. At the end of the day, she comes home to you. So you need to make sure that you speak as correctly as you can in her presence. And then the other thing she told me is that, and she ain't never lied about neither one of these things, but the second thing she said was that on your part is going to require overkill. She said, I mean major overkill. So if you're wondering where Sky was when all of this was going on, she was in the game room playing with one of the other speech pathologists there. So we could talk without her getting her feelings hurt or whatever. But she says it's going to be major overkill. So I continue right to this day, speaking to the best of my ability, even though, and here's where yesterday's question can come into play. Because a lot of times when I send her texts, I will want to just cut it short, but I can't. I remember, okay, I don't write okay to her. Well, I take that back. She understands okay. But like if I were to write it the way it's written in Braille, even though it's in print, she'll probably correct me herself. But the thing is, it's a lot of words I find myself spelling out when I am communicating with her, because I have made the mistake of writing to her the way I write, only for her to call back and ask me whatever. Why you say that? Da. So I just have to take time and type it out. Now, that's what I could do as a parent, and I don't regret that. But I'm not going to tell you that it's always been something easy for me to do because, okay, but I know that I did right to get her help when I did. And, but unfortunately, because of the speech impediment, she was still bullied growing up all the way through. But I just know that that was all I could do. Now, here's a story. I know I told you one yesterday, but here's one just about her. She was trying to make me understand the word she said. All I can tell you is I knew that the word began with the letter B, and she kept making the long E sound. So I'm like, beetle, beaten, beats, beat, like B-E-E-T. I just couldn't, everything I said was wrong. So she gets up and starts imitating something that didn't help me either. 45 minutes. And I do mean 45. That number after 44 and before 46. She has gotten so worked up she was starting to cry. And that's what I don't want her to do, is to be, so feeling like she's not understood, that she breaks down and cry or fight or whatever you do. So when she started to cry, she just jumped up and said, pow, 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 pow. And I was standing in my living room floor. And then that's what I said. Bullets. I'm like, boy, we could have had 15,000 conversations if you had to say that 30 seconds into trying to make me understand what you said. But of course, I didn't say all of that. She came and buried her head in my stomach, and she cried, and I picked her up, put her in my lap, and I explained to her, look, baby, I hate that this is an issue for you, but as long as there's breath in my body and I can't talk, I will always go out of my way to try to understand you. I don't care what friends and family may say. You know that you can always come to me. Now, with that being said, at very best, there's still going to be some times that I don't know what you're saying. But you need to be able to understand, even when you get frustrated because I don't understand something, you stop and think about it. I understand probably about 99.9% of what you're saying. So try not to ever think that I just leave you out there stranded, because nothing could be further from the truth. And she sat there, she was just crying, she dried her face, she's like, okay. I said, because I love you, Skylar. Okay, so I was telling the speech pathologist all of that, and she said, well, by the way, can you name some words or letters she seems to have trouble with the most? I said, I said, she pronounces anything beginning with the letter G, she turns it into the letter D. If somebody asks her, where you going? She turns around and repeats it, it's where you going. So, in my need to feel like I was wrong, I would always correct her, which we all know you're not supposed to do that. But I think sometimes exceptions must be made. But then I said she cannot say any word that has the k sound. So she can't say Um, and then she also has problems with blended syllables. When she was in the first grade, she came home from school one day and she was like, Mom, why did you name me Shyla or Styler? She would say one of those two words. She said, why did you name me that? And you know I can't say my name. I'm like, girl, who in the world would ever think that their child can't say their name? No one had any way of knowing that, Sky. So she never said anything else about that. But if you're wondering, she was 18 years old before she ever learned how to say Skylar. Now, with all I did, I still, can't be with her 24/7. Unfortunately, what all of that has done is she still at 31 second guesses herself. And who wants to feel like that? She will call me and she'll spell a word and she'll be like, well, what does that mean? Or whatever this sound like to you, like if she is texting somebody. Sometimes she'll say, well, and she'll read something. She'll say, well, does that sound about right? I'm like, yeah, I hate that though. And then, I was always at the doctor, even when she was old enough to go on her own. I always usually would go so I could better explain it to her when we get home. Now, 31 years later, there is still some stuff that she can't say, and she probably will always have issues along the way. But I can honestly tell you that she has come an awfully long way. I am no speechologist or pathologist, speech pathologist. But if she had to be ranked or categorized now, I would put it at a mild to moderate speech impediment. And you may say, well, yeah, you would see that. You would see it that way because you're her mom. And maybe that's true, but I don't believe it is. Because the older she got, the further away, she would get out here. Some of that stuff had nothing to do with her speech impediment. She was bad as hell sometimes. But that's not what I'm talking about today. But when she is away from me, and she may come back and say something, or maybe I'm the one going somewhere, and they'll be like, that guy's a trip. She said da-da-da-da-da. So when she came to me as recently about 4 or 5 weeks ago. She had to go to the doctor. Mom, you gonna go to the doctor with me? Sky, I think you can handle that. She said, I don't think so. And even if I do understand it, when I try to answer, they're not going to understand me, Skylar. People understand you way better than you give them credit for. I said, so I didn't go. My mom got mad because I didn't want to go, so she took her to the doctor. And when they called her name, they both went in there. At some point, because after they left the doctor, she came and got me and took me to the store. And I always know when something's bothering her, because she won't stop talking about it. And she just kept going on and on, saying that the doctor said he was concerned about her pigment. You're in there for diabetes. That has none whatsoever to do with diabetes, unless you want to say that blacks are more prone to get it, but blacks are more prone to get everything, according to doctors. So, no, pigmentation has nothing to do with that. She would not let up. We leave the store, and she started all that again. I still don't know what the pigmentation was about. And I was like, bang, I was like, you need to call the doctor. You don't have to sign in. Call the doctor. The lady at the receptionist desk can pull your chart and she can tell you what the doctor said. And so she was like, okay, it's 12 o'clock. I said, well, they're on lunch break, but they'll be done by 1. And we will be going in there. So we piddled around for maybe 30 minutes. At the end of that 30 minutes, she said, okay, it's 12:30 now. She said, but Mama, Grandmama was in there when the doctor said that. And then she just going to jump up and run out the room talking about she don't want to hear it. You couldn't have told me that about 45 minutes ago. It's what I wanted to say, but I didn't. What I said instead was, well, we just killed time for no reason. I said, call Mama. And she called my mom and she put her on speakerphone. And she said, I was trying to tell my mama that the doctor said that he would, if I am diabetic, he's saying that he was concerned about my pigmentation. Mama did just what I did. What? She said, you know that word he said right when you ran out the room. My mama is good and scared. So she said, what about it? She said, he did say something about my pigmentation. Mama was like, you mean your pancreas? Oh, Lord have mercy. This man said pancreas. She said, you sure he didn't say pig? Then Mom said, Scott, that ain't got nothing to do with diabetes. I said, oh, you just saved me another possible 15 or 20 minutes waiting on them folks to come in here for lunch. We could have been back at home. But it's things like that she wants this. And see, every time they don't understand her, she says, okay, well, that's behind me, but watch, you're not going to know what I'm saying. I say, well, you will, they will, if you take your time and be aware of everything you say. It's only when you get relaxed that all of that impediment comes out. You make her mad. She was born on the 4th of July. And so, Little Miss Firecracker, or Big Firecracker, whatever the case may be, but you definitely understand what she says when she's angry. So, I guess that's all I want. Oh, I got one other story to tell, then I'm going to let you go for real. One time, like I said earlier, I have a niece who is 3.5 years younger than Sky. She was at the house with us one day. They were over there in Sky's room. They started out laughing and talking, but then they started arguing. Oh, they just argue. And I never would get up and go say anything. So finally, it went from that to them both just screaming, bloody murder. They were screaming. And that's when I was like, hey, what's wrong with y'all? What's going on in there? Sky, we saw a ghost. Saw what? A ghost. A ghost? We saw a ghost. Chelsea said, my niece said. And it wasn't no Scooby-Doo. And to make it even worse, I didn't go in there trying to comfort them or anything. I was laughing too hard. And before my husband and I got back together, that's just what it was. But when we got together, our youngest woman, my youngest one, she has always been quite a comedian. So one day she said something that caught both of us off track. When I remember it, I'll share it. But my husband came in, he was like, our children are just going to have to, or you and me, we just going to have to accept that we are silly parents. Because some of the stuff they do, it catches you so far off guard that had you been aware or whatever, you would be able to chastise or tell them, don't do or say that. Because it's kind of hard to tell them that when they just stood there or sat there and watched us crack our sides for laughing about something they did or said. But we try. Anyway, this is it for now. Book connectors, that may be a little too much to unload or unpack on you all. I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. And one of the advantages I have found to having a smaller YouTube channel is because there's a certain intimacy there that, the bigger channels probably don't have. And it's not that, as a content creator, I believe it's not that they are ignoring the comments or not making them. It's just so many they can't respond to all of them in a timely manner. And I want you all to feel safe to say whatever it is you want to say. With that being said, remember, though, to share only as much as you care to with us on this channel. And subscribers, thank you for being subscribed. Visitors, thank you for viewing the channel. The door is always open. Feel free to walk on in. And then, everyone, I need you to check to make sure you're still subscribed. Once you see that you are, do not forget to like, share, comment respectfully, and make sure your notification bells are not only turned on, but they need to be set to all, so you'll know every time I drop another gem. And in the meantime, book connectors, remember this: as long as there are books around, there is always something to read. And until we read and or connect again, please be safe out there. Whatever you do, be careful. Take time out to enjoy yourself and others. And God bless. Die only for now.